living a quiet life that looked perfect from the outside. Mark, my husband, provided stability, love, routine. But somewhere along the way, I became invisible to him, to the world, maybe even to myself. Then came one evening, just a charity dinner, nothing unusual. But one touch, one look from a man I barely knew, stirred something inside me I hadn't felt in years. He didn't promise anything. He didn't ask for anything. He simply saw me, and in that moment I remembered the woman I used to be, the one who felt alive, desired, deeply present in her own skin. This isn't a story about betrayal, it's about awakening. About what happens when someone quietly, gently reminds you that you still exist, that you're still worth seeing, that love, even unexpected, isn't always about romance. Sometimes it's about remembering yourself. Welcome to my channel. I'm 59 years old, married to my husband Mark for what feels like a lifetime, 35 years, to be exact. We've built a quiet life in the suburbs of Cland, Ohio. Our kids are grown now, scattered across different states, living lives I mostly see through photos and Sunday calls. Mark works in corporate finance, same company, nearly 20 years. I used to be a school librarian, took early retirement last year, and now I spend my days gardening, reading, staying busy. I go to charity functions with Mark on my arm, playing the role I've always played, the devoted, smiling wife. It was one of those dinners that changed everything for me. The invitation came from Gregory Nash, Mark's boss, name I'd heard but never met in person. Mark said he was sharp, distant, traditional, not big on small talk, but someone who carried presence. The event was held downtown at a private, old-world club, dark wood walls, low piano music, waiters who glided like shadows. That night, I took extra care. Navy dress from years ago, lipstick I hadn't worn in ages. Couldn't say why I tried, but something in me stirred, something that wanted to feel visible again, even for one night. Mark introduced me with pride. I shook hands, smiled politely, let their business talk fade into the hum of background noise. Then Gregory approached, taller than I'd imagined, silver hair, clean jaw, eyes that held a little too long. "You must be Linda," he said, offering his hand. "Mark told me you were once a librarian. Keepers of secrets, huh?" I smiled. "Only the good ones." He laughed, low and real. He didn't move on quickly like the rest. He stayed asking about books I loved, authors I missed, ideas that still lit my soul. At dinner, I sat between Mark and Gregory. Quiet clinks, boring stories, polite laughter. Someone mentioned a local author. I chimed in. Gregory turned, his eyes holding mine. "I didn't know you loved writing." His voice was soft, curious. I was about to reply when I felt it. His hand, just a graze beneath the table, lingering, warm, not accidental. His fingers touched mine, brief, steady, then gone. I froze, heartbeat louder than the room, face warm from something I hadn't felt in years. When I looked at him, he wasn't looking at me, but a few moments later, our eyes met again, and in his gaze, a softness and acknowledgement passed quietly. I excused myself to breathe, not fear, not desire, just something subtle and startling. I felt seen, really seen. When I returned, Mark chatted. Gregory sipped his wine, but when I sat down, his hand brushed mine again, less accidental this time. We didn't speak of it. We didn't need to. Something had shifted quietly, gently, undeniably. I told myself it was nothing, but deep down I knew. The days that followed were normal, at least from the outside. Mark's routine never wavered: coffee, work, long hours, pecks on the cheek. I kept myself busy, tending roses, walking markets, sorting photos from years past. But inside, something stirred: his touch, his glance, the way he saw me not as someone's wife, but as someone whole. Mark loved me, always had, but love that long changes. It quiets down, tucks itself into routines and shared calendars. Gregory's glance reminded me what it felt like to be noticed, woman, not title. A few days later, Mark mentioned another invite. Gregory's having some couples over just a casual gathering, he said, loosening his tie unfazed. He asked if you'd come, said he enjoyed talking with you. My face warmed, heart stirred. Did he? I asked, careful. Mark didn't catch it. He wandered to the kitchen while I stood there, hearing more in that invite than the words he spoke. That Saturday, we arrived at Gregory's house colonial, elegant, tucked in a wooded street. Spring air cool and light. Jazz drifted through open windows. There were only a few people. Gregory greeted us at the door, his charm effortless and warm. "Linda," he said softly, "I'm glad you came." His hand on my back just a second, maybe two. My skin felt it first. Later, I found myself near the fire pit with him while Mark talked inside. He handed me a glass, studied my face quietly. "You seemed distant earlier. Everything all right?" he asked. "I just feel invisible sometimes." His voice dropped. "You're not. Not kind, not flattery, just a truth," gently said. We stood in silence, the fire dancing between us. Then his hand found mine, not an accident this time. His thumb traced slow circles, steady and unrushed, just presence. "I shouldn't." I started. "You haven't done anything," he said with calm, "and neither have I." I didn't pull away, didn't lean closer either. Just let the moment breathe. Eventually we separated, called back by voices, but something inside me had shifted again, deeper, not just being noticed, but being awake again. When we left, Gregory's glance met mine one last time, no guilt, no ask, just recognition. Just knowing. Mark drove us home humming. I stared out the window, watching moonlight blur against the windshield. The week after moved quietly. Mark with his paper, me with my garden. But my heart moved differently, unfolding, not unraveling. Gregory didn't call, didn't need to. His silence echoed softly like something sacred left untouched. Then Friday came. Mark mentioned a dinner. Gregory invited me out, new client thing. You probably wouldn't want to sit through more business talk. I paused, watching candlelight flicker. "What if I do?" Mark blinked. "You sure?" I could use a night, and so I went. Burgundy dress, silk scarf, soft lighting, polished tables. Gregory was already there. When he saw me, his gaze paused, softened. No words, just a look. "Linda," he said later, "you look elegant." I thanked him quietly with Mark right beside me. Dinner was long, slow, polite. My attention lived between words unspoken and spaces shared. No touches this time, just restraint, patient and steady. After dessert, Mark stepped away. Gregory leaned in gently. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "Neither was I." I whispered, "You've been thinking about it." It wasn't a question. I didn't deny it. "I've been married forever." I said honestly, low, "I don't want to be foolish." "You're not," he replied. "You've just been quiet for too long." That broke something open. He wasn't asking for more, just space, just truth. If you ever want to talk, really talk, I'd like that. No pressure, just a door quietly left unlocked. Mark returned minutes later. Gregory stood, shook his hand. When he turned to me, the briefest brush, nothing more. But his eyes lingered. On the drive home, Mark talked budgets and numbers. I watched the city blur, lost in my own questions. When we pulled into the driveway, Mark smiled. "Thanks for coming." I smiled back, heart full of things I couldn't name. That night I lay awake not from worry, but wondering. Days passed, weeks maybe, life went on as usual, but something stayed quietly pressing. Gregory hadn't reached out, but I felt his presence still. One morning, while Mark hummed and shaved in the bathroom, I stood at the kitchen sink and looked at my reflection. Not just looks, saw. Not the girl I once was, but something deeper, truer. A woman who had lived and still had things inside that wanted to be felt. That afternoon, a message came. "Gregory, I'll be at the gallery Saturday at 4. You said the Mani exhibit moved you. If you're there too, I'd enjoy the walk. No ask. No pressure, just an opening, a choice." I stared at the screen, heart thudding quiet and deep. Saturday came. I didn't tell Mark. He was in the garage, sorting tools, humming off. "Guy." I drove downtown in silence, parked near the museum steps. Inside, the Mani exhibit glowed soft gold frames, oil dreams. I wandered alone for a while, letting color settle the ache in places I forgot I carried. Then I saw him, standing still, not searching, just waiting. When our eyes met, he smiled. Slow, soft, knowing, not expecting, just recognizing. We walked in silence through brushstrokes and quiet. At one painting, he spoke. I know you love Mark. I'm not here to break that. But I wanted to remind you, you're still allowed to feel more. I swallowed, unsure, moved. I wasn't looking for this. I know, he whispered. That's why it's real. I turned to him. So what now? He smiled, small and steady. That's not mine to decide. There was no kiss, no dramatic goodbye. Just something sacred, left beautifully unnamed. At the door I touched his hand, my fingers lingering. I don't know what this means. I said, barely above breath. Maybe not knowing is okay, he replied, and somehow it was. I drove home, windows down, spring air catching my hair. I didn't feel like I'd strayed. I didn't feel ashamed. I felt awake. That night, I sat beside Mark, watching him read his paper. And for the first time, I wanted to speak. Not about Gregory, but about us. About the things we forget, the parts of ourselves we stop seeing, and maybe, just maybe, what could still be found.